So, welcome everybody to another edition of Perspectives of a Professional. Super excited today to have Tyler Key here from Concept Controls talking to us about all things occupational health and safety. So, welcome, Tyler.
Thanks, Chelsea. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, so I wanted to start off, get our audience to get to know you a little bit. So, do you mind sharing a little bit about your position with Concept and maybe a little bit about what Concept Controls does?
My pleasure. So my name is Tyler Key, as Chelsea had mentioned. I'm with Concept Controls. I'm a technical sales specialist covering Southern Alberta and Saskatchewan for Concept. As far as Concept goes, we are a distributor of instrumentation and safety supplies, but where we tend to play tends to be in the more technical side of things. So we focus on what we like to call 5 pillars. That would be gas detection, industrial hygiene, environmental monitoring, respiratory protection, and fall protection. And the reason being is that all of those topics are hairy at best. So having the team that we do with a lot of tenure is very helpful. Certainly working with our clients. My personal experience, I've been in industry now for over a decade, holding various positions as both a distributor and a manufacturer rep. So as far as exposure is concerned, seen lots of interesting things in the field for sure.
I bet you have.
Of course, throughout my travels, if there are any challenges whatsoever, we do have some excellent manufacturer partners that we lean upon, and from there, they work with their tech support teams to provide you with the appropriate answers.
Awesome. Well, I know that you and Concept Controls have both been a great partner to us here at Shift. I know we've often reached out to you for questions about respiratory protection, for support in those areas, for support with, noise monitoring and things like that. So you've always been an amazing resource to us.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Yeah. So I was hoping to start off our conversation by talking a little bit about noise, something that comes up relatively frequently in my world. We do a lot of audiometric testing and things like that. So I thought it'd be great to kind of get your vendor technical perspective on noise.
Excellent. Well, noise is certainly a common challenge. It is completely preventable as well, which is quite interesting because if you think of various hazards that every employee has to deal with on a daily basis, for a lot of companies, noise is a factor, right? So it's important to try and prevent it. It's also important to understand that it's one of the most common work-related illnesses in North America. So noise is a hazard. Majority of businesses that are operating are going to have some form of noise management program.
Absolutely. So what does a noise management program kind of consist of?
So as far as a noise management program is concerned, Alberta OHS has done an excellent job of spelling it out in their bulletin HS003. In particular, there's a few different things that you have to meld into your noise management program. You need to make sure that your workers are educated, how they're exposed to noise, how to protect themselves, what happens. You need to measure and monitor your sound levels. Now, this can be a little bit tricky, right? Because not everyone has access to this style of equipment, and it can be quite costly. You need to make sure that signs are posted. That's probably one of the easier parts of the job.
Absolutely.
Noise exposure, though, that can be a challenge. The reason being is you start off with the very obvious engineering controls. Is there anything we can substitute out, or can we use a machine that's maybe a little bit quieter? From there, you're doing everything you can to exercise your administrative controls. Can we swap bodies in or out? Can we reduce exposure time? And then the very last step, of course, is PPE. And when it comes to hearing protection devices, you've got so many different options, so many different brands and styles. The biggest trick will be finding the right solution for your particular team members for your environment.
Okay.
So this is something where you can work with your distributor, whoever it may be, to find the right product for the job. As you're very familiar with, Chelsea, we do need to have some controls in place, like audiometric testing after the fact, to understand if there has been threshold shift. If there has been a threshold shift and people are losing their hearing, we need to go back and figure out what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, and that's, I think, a big part of the audiometric testing itself is not just, number one, obviously looking at, like you said, the shifts, the threshold shifts in a worker's hearing, but that also helps us to evaluate how effective the noise management program is, right? Like, are we using the right PPE? Is there something we should be switching up?
Oh, 100%. And back to that original point of educating the workers, training is absolutely critical. And what I've seen in the field is that there are some employers that are challenged in this area. And this is an area where a manufacturer rep or distributor can help you. It could be as simple as showing you the correct way to roll an earplug.
Absolutely.
I know it sounds really dumb, but some people just don't understand. And the visual checks that can occur as well. So if you're walking around let's call it a plant site or a production floor, and you're looking around and you see that earplug hanging halfway out the ear, there's no fit there.
Right.
And part of the problem with that too is that if you're not wearing your hearing protection properly, number one, there's a false sense of protection. Number two, there's a concern that might be amplifying things. There's a little bit for it to get through. So again, you don't want to mess with it. You want to make sure that you're doing everything correctly, because it's a massive occupational disease that's easily remedied.
Right. Well, I remember, and I think a lot of people think that, especially with those, earbuds and that type of thing, that they're very easy to put in. And I remember when I was new in this industry, going to a local safety association's event where they had somebody coming in and talking about noise protection and noise management, and them actually showing us how to roll them and do that. And it was definitely new for me. Like, I was thinking, just jam it in and away we go, right? But there's a lot more to it than that.
Oh, 100%. So if you're looking at a standard foam plug, you have to do the roll. You have to do it right. It's best to straighten the ear canal, and that involves reaching around and, all that fun stuff. But there are some products out there you can just jam in, but you got to make sure that you're buying those products.
Absolutely. So to kind of take it back to the beginning, like, how would an employer know if they need a noise management program? Like, I would gather that not every single employer or every single work environment requires that. So how would they go about kind of evaluating that?
Well, if you're in a library, Chelsea, you're safe.
Perfect.
Maybe a showroom floor, but yeah, most industrial employers will require a noise protection program or noise management program. The general rule of thumb that we use in industry is a noise survey should be performed in any work area where a worker must significantly raise their voice in order to be heard over the background noise.
Right.
So that's your first tip, is if you have to yell at somebody, chances are you might need some hearing protection.
Absolutely. Well, that's something that I learned early on, and I've even taken into my personal life, right? Like, thinking about all the, personal noise exposure we experience. And most of the time people don't wear noise protection at home, but, for example, mowing your lawn. Yeah, definitely you have to yell at someone when you're doing that. So that should be a place where you'd consider wearing hearing protection.
100%. So to that point, we go back to that whole, can you swap it out? Can you do administrative controls? We recently switched from a gas mower to an electric battery mower, and we found that it's significantly less noisy. So it's still loud, don't get me wrong, but to us, it's a major change and a major shift, and just doing simple things like that. You're right. And exposure to rock concerts and all the rest of that. It just, yeah.
Absolutely.